to why they have significantly better educational outcomes than we do is because it's funded and it's public and it's not pay to win. Funding has nothing to do with how poorly educated the USA is, law. No, brother. Funding absolutely has something to do with it. Yes, the cost per pupil is very high in the United States of America. This is true. It's a matter of where that money is going. It's a matter of the public-private partnership. And it's more so a matter of how those funds are utilized. A lot of those funds, since the 90s, by way of the Democrats and the Republicans alike, have been going to charter schools. The educational standards in the United States of America are piss poor. Schools also spend a shit ton of money on their sports programs before they spend it on actual education, having smaller classrooms, having better paid teachers with more time off, having more teachers, or even something as simple as food. The American education structure is so fundamentally broken, especially within the public education system. It's so messed up. You're braving the elements every step of the goddamn way. And there are things that people don't even comprehend that play a major role in students not getting quality education. Things like school lunches not being free. Things like not having proper air conditioning or proper heating inside of classrooms or the sizes of classrooms. These are massively consequential issues that we don't even address or think about. That's before we get to mass shootings and shit. Why China banned homework?
You wake up at 5:30 in the morning. You scarf down breakfast on the way to school. You do 30 minutes of mandatory military-style exercise. Then at 7 o'clock sharp, the real work begins. Chinese class, then English, math, and so on. You sit still, respond when asked questions, and quietly, obediently memorize character after character, fact after fact. Officially, school ends at 5:15 p.m., but don't plan on relaxing just yet. After an hour for dinner, 2 if you're lucky, it's time for the next phase of your day, private tutoring. You sit in a room not unlike the one you just...
Yeah, also, China literally banned, I think this video is straight up completely false, lol. Didn't China recently ban private tutoring? I mean, you can still get it, but like a couple years ago, yeah, they banned it 4 years ago. I guess it's not so recent. I'm so glad that Massachusetts passed the millionaires class, so every kid, including mine, can have free lunches and breakfast every day. Yeah, that's a huge problem, dude. Like especially when you're growing up and you don't have access to food, that's genuinely consequential. Heating and cooling in classrooms not being adequate is a massive consequence to your learning experience. It's stupid shit like that. People think it's all because the teachers suck or whatever. Ironically enough, everybody I think knows that people don't get into teaching in this country because they want to make money. They get into teaching because that is their passion. That I think also creates a different issue. If you're a teacher and you're constantly burdened by the stress of your finances, you're also going to offer substandard education. It's normal. You're human. No matter how passionate you are, if you're constantly stressing about your finances, that's probably going to burden you. It's probably going to play a role as well. It's death by 1,000 cuts, where the entire system is designed to make these awful substandard outcomes in terms of educational attainment in this country. Yeah, the most popular television program, award-winning television program, is quite literally about a teacher, a chemistry teacher, that gets cancer and then becomes a meth kingpin in this country. Unironically, in a social democracy, that premise doesn't exist. You get that? That premise doesn't exist at all, because in any other competent social democracy or any other competent government, the teacher has an issue with cancer, and then the cancer treatment is paid for. We're over here talking about like, oh, look at Norway and China. Their education is so much better. Why can't we do this? That's why we need to continue accelerating the public-private partnership that guts public education.
To some of these states that are really well-run states, they would be as good as Denmark and Norway and Sweden and some of the other states.
What's the one thing about these countries that he's presenting? What's the one thing that you can point to in these nations, man? I can't seem to place my finger on it. No, it's not that they're white. He also talked about China too. It's not about white versus non-white. Chatters, get the out of here. No, it's not low population. He mentioned China. China breaks all of these arguments. The notion of homogeny is such a stupid one because cultural assimilation is complete by the third generation. The notion that this is like, oh, it's because we just have too many different cultures in America is stupid. No, everybody becomes a goddamn American by the second generation, and they're completely American, hogified by the third. Stop with this nonsense. There are 40 recognized ethnic groups in China. People think it's one culture because no American ever learns about the country. Yeah. I was going to do Teach for America and wanted to teach at a public school, but ended up being railroaded into teaching a subject that I didn't want at a charter school with garbage work-life balance, no union, and super rigid rules for both teachers and students, so I ended up quitting. The incentives for people to go into teaching are so terrible that even people who want to teach are ultimately discouraged from doing so. Yep. This is awesome. They had a choice of to become a teacher or something else, ... How much is enough? Getting paid for working for 9 months out of the year, having a defined benefit, retirement, and full health care are all great perks. This guy coming in hot, dude. We're teaching. We're giving our teachers too much. That's a good take, man. You're right. You know who are the real leeches on society? Our teachers and our f***ing nurses, dude. The real leeches. The real parasites in contemporary American society. Teachers are out here literally working 2 jobs, sometimes 3, in order to make ends meet. And this guy's like, they're just getting paid too much. They already have good enough benefits, dude. Sweet here. Our school system is more municipal than state run. This was a change that happened in the 1990s. However, it's still all publicly funded. There are private schools, however, they're also paid for by the municipality and is allowed to make profit and not reinvested into the school. Yeah, except in Sweden, they tried to move into privatization, recognize that actually led to worse educational attainment overall, worse educational outcomes overall, and quickly scrapped that idea. This happened, I think, like 2 decades ago at this point, or a decade ago. I remember reading about it. So Sweden is actually a very famous case study for trying to privatize it further and then realizing that shit was a ginormous failure. It'll come back. It'll come back because that's how capital works. Capital, ironically, is a parasitic force. Capital, ironically, is, does all of the things that you think teachers are doing, I guess. So even if there is a privatization initiative and it fails once, that doesn't mean people who want to seek out profit in that sector are going to stop. They're not going to be like, all right, I guess we were wrong. Oops, my bad. That's not how this works at all. They're going to come back stronger, harder, and try to privatize again and again and again. As long as capital exists, as long as capitalism exists, there will always be capital owners that seek out profits in every socialized sector. That is ultimately the goal. Picking apart the government and picking apart state-funded institutions for scraps, privatizing it, and then turning it into for-profit institutions. Things like education should not be for-profit. Things like healthcare should not be for-profit. You don't have to be a socialist to recognize this. Things like housing should not be for-profit. That last part is the hardest one to get people to understand, unfortunately. I think, regardless of my worldview, these are areas of agreement with the overwhelming majority of Western society. You see what I'm saying? I have a different vision for how society must be run. Having said that, however, in the interim period, I'm perfectly capable of making marginal improvements. And those marginal improvements revolve around things like improving education. The exact opposite of what Trump is doing, of course, which is making education worse overall, because he's interested in one thing and one thing only, which is to create profits for his buddies, create avenues of profit for his buddies. Yeah, this is the famous Matt Damon clip.
There isn't job security, right? There's an incentive to work hard and be a better actor because you want to have a job. So why isn't it like that for teachers?
You think job insecurity is what makes me work hard?
Well, you have an incentive to work harder, but if there's job security...
Be an actor. It's not an incentive. That's the thing. So you take this MBA-style thinking, right? It's the problem with ed policy right now. There's this intrinsically paternalistic view of problems that are much more complex than that. It's like saying a teacher is going to get lazy when they have tenure. A teacher wants to teach. I mean, why else would you take a shitty salary and really long hours